Howdy, and welcome to episode 52 of T-Shirts and Shawls. I'm Karen, and today is Thursday, April 12th, 2018. It has been 3 weeks since the previous episode. Usually it's 2 weeks in between, and that is because DFW Fiberfest was this past weekend. So last week on Thursday, I was setting up my vendor space and then had the events Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So kind of rearranged the podcast schedule a little bit, but I'm back and should be back to every other week now. Wally is back as well, and I'm sure he is eager to say hi. And there are quite a few things that I want to talk about in today's episode. I'm going to change a little bit of the structure, but if you've been watching the podcast, not a huge change, just little bits here and there, and we'll go ahead and get started. So a little bit of structure change, I said, for today's episode. And if you've watched the podcast, then you know that typically the next two segments are the t-shirt and the shawl. If you've not watched the podcast before, if this is your first time, typically I wear a shirt and then talk about it and then have a shawl that I talk about. So I'm not going to do either of those things in this episode. Instead, during what would be the shawls section, I'll talk about DFW Fiberfest. And instead of the shirt, I'm going to be talking about a tote bag. So we'll go ahead, even though I'm still labeling this section as the shirt, it's a tote bag. So this tote bag is one of my very favorite bags. I love just the structure of the bag, the zipper, the extra pockets and everything. So I use this bag all the time. And this is a bag that I got at the Knitting Fairy, which is my local yarn shop. And I'm always really proud to carry this bag. It says that keeping the fairy in business since 2010. Unfortunately, this bag is no longer true. The Knitting Fairy, the owner of the shop, Elisa, announced on Tuesday, so just 2 days ago, that she is closing her shop this month. So for those of you in the local area, hopefully you got that email or Facebook announcement and did not just find out about it through here. But if so, Elisa made the announcement, so she has decided to close her shop. I have known about this for a little while because this is the shop that I have my yarn available in the local area. It's the shop that I use, I go to whenever I do my trunk shows, my book release. So not only is it my personal shop that I shop at, it's also the shop that my business is connected to. So Elisa did let me know earlier, so that way I could kind of be prepared and make potentially other arrangements. But I couldn't talk about it with anyone, so it's really sad to get the announcement, absolutely. But in some ways, I'm glad she's finally announced it. Glad is not the right word. I guess kind of relieved that she's finally announced it, because it's been hard to know this and not be able to talk about it with anyone. Anyway, so I am personally very saddened because, like I said, it is my local yarn shop, the place that I go to for shopping and community. And then also it's a big blow for my business as well, because that's a shop that everybody knows in the area. If you want round table yarns, you go to the Knitting Fairy. So we're not going to have that connection anymore. Now, Elisa is still going to be doing teaching types of engagements and whatnot, so she's not leaving the fiber community. She is just kind of changing the, I guess, the way that she interacts with the community instead of having a storefront. So the reason that I wanted to talk about it on the podcast is just to talk about it, because it is something that definitely affects me both personally as a knitter and spinner. These spin nights at the shop lately have been the only times that I've been spinning, and that was once a month. So as a knitter and spinner personally, the shop closing is definitely upsetting, and then also for Round Table Yarns. So I wanted to use this, I kind of feel like I'm going to get a little bit on a soapbox, but I think that this is an important conversation to have, and I'm also going to give you guys some kind of tips for how you can help out small businesses. I'm sure it is not a surprise that many small businesses struggle. The reasons for Elisa closing her shop are her reasons, and not mine to share. But I think that it probably shouldn't be a surprise that one of the factors is financial. Again, I won't go into any details. It is her business, but I know that that is unfortunately a factor. So I do want to talk a little bit about that. So small businesses, small usually means that there are not very many employees, or people that are working within the business. Some small businesses can make a lot of money. Some large businesses that have lots and lots of employees can make very little money and close down. For example, Toys R Us. So this is not necessarily something that is unique to small business. And not every small business is necessarily struggling, but many of them, unfortunately, are. And as a small business owner myself, it is definitely something that I struggle with as well. And the question of, doing this because, yes, it is something that we love, but also because it is a business, and in order to keep going, money does have to come in. And businesses like yarn shops, like Roundtable Yarns, there are a lot of expenses that go into the business. So for a yarn shop, you obviously have the rent for the space, electricity, internet connection, insurance, everything that the physical space takes up. You have inventory for the shop because you have to buy the stuff in advance. And then hope that somebody one of your customers will purchase it, so that way you can get those costs back. But you have to put money up front to get inventory. If you don't have money for inventory, then the stock in your store dwindles, and it kind of becomes this kind of self-fulfilling type of thing that you don't make enough money through sales, and therefore you don't have enough money to buy inventory, which means you don't have things to sell to make money. And by the way, I'm generalizing now. I'm not speaking specifically about one business. And I'm generalizing about a lot of small businesses. For myself, although I currently do not have a storefront or studio space, a lot of my expenses go into inventory, into buying the undyed yarn so that I can dye. Looking at a little pie chart of my expenses and everything. The yarn expense is like, I think 2/3 of my expense chart. So that's, it's a pretty hefty investment, which as a business, it is something that you invest in. But if you don't see the level of sales to recoup that investment, then that's where things can definitely go downhill for a business. So anyway, I don't think anybody in this industry is in it because they think that it's going to make them rich. But it is something that usually that they love, and I include myself in that, and really want to do, but only can do as long as there is at least some money coming in. So I think I am actually going to talk a little bit more specifically about Roundtable Yarns in the What I'm Dyeing section. So for this section, I'll give you some thoughts about buying from small businesses. So here's the soapbox part. I know everyone has a budget. I have a budget. We do not have unlimited money. But if you do not spend money at the small businesses that you love, or even any business that you love, then it is harder and harder for those businesses to stay afloat and therefore stay in business. So the bottom line is, if you love a small business, please make that apparent by making purchases from that small business as you can. Again, I know that again, you probably have multiple small businesses you love, and it's hard to be able to buy from everything I should have looked this up to make sure that I have the details right, but there's something that I believe is called the 350 project, with the idea that if you spend $50 each month at 3 different small businesses, I think usually it's like local businesses, just $50 over 3 local businesses each month, then that can have a really huge impact on the local economy. And I know 3 places, $50 a month, that's $150 a month, which might be more than you could do each month. But just that idea that maybe thinking each month about kind of spreading your budget out and having it go to the businesses you love. Basically, do what you can. I understand I'm under a budget too. I can't buy everything that I want, and not one person can support a small business by him or herself. It takes kind of all of us making purchases in order to help the businesses that we love. So that's obviously the one thing that you can do. Second thing, I know, again, going back to the budgeting things, I know we love getting good deals. I love getting a good deal. I love saving money because it means that I can buy more things. However, give some thought to the way you are buying things and the money that you are saving. So I'm going to give a very specific example. Let's say you have an interchangeable needle set, and your local yarn shop carries that interchangeable needle set, and you find the same needle set online, say on Amazon, for $10 or $15 less than your local yarn shop. $10 or $15, I can know that can make a huge difference in my personal budget. And so being able to save that, let's just call it $10, being able to save that $10, buying it on Amazon, maybe you have Amazon Prime, therefore you get free shipping. So you really are saving $10, not even having to worry about a shipping cost. And that can make a huge deal because you think, then I've got $10 to spend elsewhere. Or maybe I couldn't buy this interchangeable needle set if I had to come up with that extra $10. But, and by the way, pot calling the kettle black, I buy stuff from Amazon all the time. Not crafting stuff usually, but a lot of books and movies and various other odds and ends. So I do buy things on Amazon. I don't mean to vilify Amazon or buying things on Amazon. But, so back to my example. So you really feel like saving that $10 is really important to be able to get this needle set for you. But what you've done is now that needle set is still sitting at the local yarn shop. That yarn shop owner had to pay to get that needle set into the shop, and now it's still sitting there, and that yarn shop did not make the sale, and the yarn shop is not making money. And then you go take that needle set into the yarn shop, let's say there's a knit night, and you kind of you share, hey, I got this new needle set, and you're very excited about it, and you talk about what a good deal that you got on it. Think about it from the point of view from that yarn shop owner. It's something that the yarn shop owner carries, something that you're talking about how excited you are with getting this thing and how good of a deal you got online. That yarn shop owner is cringing inside. Wow, that's a sale that I missed out on. And usually the yarn shop owner can't discount the needle set by that $10 because that's really cutting into what she paid for it. And not making as much money as she could, whereas Amazon can buy needle sets in giant quantities and therefore gets huge discounts. If you buy 100 or 1,000 needle sets at a time, you're going to get a huge discount versus if you can buy 2 or 3 sets for a shop. Especially if you do get those deals, don't go bragging about it to your local shop or to other people in the shop. That's kind of another thing another pointer that I'd like to give you. So if you feel like you need to purchase something online rather than the shop, just don't brag about it. Next thing If you are constantly going to a place, this could be the yarn shop, just any other place, and it's your gathering place, and you go there and you gather for community and you get help, and all the time you are just constantly in that place, but you very rarely buy anything. You might just kind of think a little bit about that, that you're using this place, which ultimately is a place of business, not just a place for people to meet for free. Consider making a purchase. My knitting group that I meet with weekly, we meet at a Starbucks. And even though it's Starbucks and, they're a much bigger business, I feel that it would not, I would feel bad if I went in and we did our meeting and I didn't buy anything, if I just came in and sat in Starbucks. And there are times where I really don't feel like having a coffee or having a drink, but I feel like since we're using the space, we should make a purchase to feel like it's okay to use that space. And I know that's not necessary all the time. I'm not saying every time you walk into a yarn shop and sit down and knit with other people that you need to make a purchase. But if you find that you're visiting and not making a purchase much more often than you are visiting and making a purchase, just think about that. Again, I'm not saying stop going to the place or whatever, but just give a little extra thought to the way that you're spending time and money. So I'm talking all about money here. I have one other tip that is a huge tip that has nothing to do with money that you can do to help out your small business. So if you have a smaller budget and you can't buy things a lot, that is fine. Again, I totally understand that. But there is another huge way that you can help out small businesses. So social media marketing is a huge thing for small businesses. So posting on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, other types of places like that, on Ravelry, especially for the knitting community. And that is a way that small businesses can be seen by other people and get potential customers. However, I'm sure, at least since I pay attention to social media marketing, these words get used a lot. Maybe you're not familiar with them, but the algorithm that shows which posts get shown to other people is kind of a big deal. And trying to figure out the algorithm and figure out how to get your posts seen by most people is something that gets talked a lot about. If you're not familiar with that, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just think about your Facebook or your Instagram feed, how it is not in chronological order, especially when Instagram changed to not chronological order. So annoying. So you see things from 5 days ago that pop up at the top of your feed, and stuff that gets posted like immediately you might never see, or you might not see until 5 days from now. And so it's this really strange algorithm that Facebook, Instagram, and other places use to show what is on your feed. So a lot of people think, a lot of the social media marketing people think that a lot of that has to do with engagement. So engagement means how often somebody likes or comments or shares those posts. So by doing that, by interacting with the posts of your favorite small businesses, that's how you can help build their engagement levels and build their, kind of get them higher up in the algorithm to get shown to more people. So if you can't spend money, or if you can't, constantly be spending money at a small business, if you interact with them more on social media, then that can have a huge impact on the business, on getting new people to find the business, to get people who already follow the business to be seeing the posts and kind of get reminded, oh yeah, I liked that indie dyer, or that bag maker, or knitwear designer, or local yarn shop, and I'd kind of forgotten about it, but look, it started to pop up on my feed again. So just getting getting the engagement levels of your favorite business up can help a lot. And I'll just say that liking things is really, really great, but what's even better is commenting, especially Instagram, and I think Facebook too, make a really big deal out of commenting, because that really shows that instead, let's take Instagram, you can just scroll through your Instagram feed and kind of hit the heart or double tap and like a bunch of things, and maybe you haven't even read the caption underneath, you're just looking at the picture. I've done that before too. I try to stop and read the captions, but I'm not, sometimes I'm just, scrolling and I haven't really stopped to read it. If you stop and take some time to write out a comment, that is a higher level of engagement than just going through and liking things. So for the businesses that you really love, take a couple of extra minutes and write out a comment. And it doesn't have to be, paragraphs long. Just a quick sentence or something like that can really be helpful. I haven't confirmed this. I did read somewhere that for Instagram, having a comment be at least 4 words is important. So just, going along and writing beautiful or gorgeous is less on the engagement level than say, wow, that shawl is beautiful. Again, just those extra couple of words sometimes can make a big difference. So commenting, not just liking, but commenting, that can have a huge impact on a small business's social media and how many other people get to see that. And I'm going to include YouTube in that as well. I will just say that it's been almost 2 years since I've been doing this podcast, and the podcast honestly hasn't grown very much. I add a couple of subscribers a month. The number of views on my videos kind of stay the same. And I'll just be honest, sometimes it's a little disheartening. I mean, I love every single one of you who watch this. Thank you so much. I love those of you who participate in the Ravelry community. I really enjoy that, and that has definitely grown, and I really appreciate that. So I don't want you to think that I don't, or that all I'm caring about is numbers. But the numbers have stayed kind of plateaued, and I think that's kind of my own fault. That I have encouraged you guys to go over to Ravelry and the Ravelry group and interact there, rather than interacting on YouTube, like making comments on the videos, or even just, hitting the thumbs up and liking it. So by taking all of our conversation over to Ravelry, YouTube doesn't see that. And so for YouTube, all they see is that there's a few people who watch the video and that's it. And they watch the video and they go away. And so for YouTube is not going to basically recommend my videos to other people because they don't really see that my videos are valuable. So I don't want to stop the Ravelry group, definitely, because I really feel like we seem to be a lot more comfortable in Ravelry, so I definitely want to include the conversation over there, but perhaps I should encourage you guys to do some comments on the actual YouTube videos occasionally, just so YouTube can see, hey, there are actually people who interact with these videos. Anyway, I've kind of gone a little far afield from kind of where I wanted to go here, but I just wanted to really tell you that if you can't spend the money, spend some time making comments on the social media for the small businesses, because that can be just as valuable, hopefully leading to future sales and being able to keep businesses in business. Anyway, so bit of a soapbox there. I know I've kind of gone on for quite a while, so that probably means this is going to be a long episode because I still have DFW Viberfest to talk about, but I really feel that this is an important conversation, and I want to think about ways that we can support small businesses and help keep them, including me, in business. DFW Fiberfest. So, I had, overall, it was a really, really great festival, and I'm completely exhausted from the festival. It's, fortunately, I feel like I'm pretty much back to normal now, but it definitely is one that that took a lot of energy, and a bit of recovery time, but I think I'm good. I think one of the biggest things is that I expanded the size of my booth. I went from the single booth to a double booth. And I mean, it's always, it takes a lot of time to set up the single booth and get it all ready to go. And I guess I hadn't really thought about how much more time it would take to set up the double booth. So it definitely took a lot longer. I had two people, Alyssa and Lindsay, who greatly helped me in setting up and tearing down the booth. And I know that I would not have been able to do it without them. So thank you guys. I know you both watch the podcast, so thank you. And so we got there before they allowed us to in, even because we waited in line with all the cars, and went in and started unloading the car and then started setting things up and setting things up and setting things up. And because I had the new booth set up, double booth, I had a new booth layout that I was experimenting with. I think that in many ways the layout worked, but in other ways I wasn't entirely happy with it. So there will be things that I change in the future if I have the same type of double booth. One of the things that I think could have been better is the way that I displayed the self-striping yarn, because in the past the self-striping has always been my biggest seller, with Camelot coming in a very close second. Camelot is the merino cashmere nylon blend, and this time the self-striping did not sell well. And some of that just may be because the vendor hall was bigger. That was something that was really both wonderful about the event, but also it meant that there were more places for people to spend money, and there were more people who sold self-striping yarn. So lots of options for getting that. So my sales for self-striping were down quite a bit. One of the factors may have been the way that I displayed it. I had all of the hand knit socks that I've dyed out of the self-striping in the very front. So I had grid walls along the side, and then a short, or a 2 foot wide, 6 feet tall, 2 foot wide grid wall up front. And the up front part, right in the front, is where I put all of the samples for the self-striping socks, because I thought that they would draw people's attention and get them to come into the booth and look at the self-striping yarn. But I'm thinking that they were actually maybe too far forward by being right at the front of the booth. I think that people, I could kind of watch their eyes as they were walking by, and see that they weren't, that they didn't always see that panel of the self-striping socks. So I'm thinking that needs to be either set back a little bit more if I do want it to be close to the front, or I should go back to where I have the sample and then the yarn itself, and then the sample and the yarn itself, so it gets kind of spread out and taking up a little more space. So I think that's something that I probably could have done better with the booth setup, and it did affect the sales. Looking at comparing this year to last year, I sold almost twice as much self-striping yarn last year. It was a huge impact difference. So in the setup, that is one thing that I would do differently. The other thing that I would do differently is I had a table that was at the back of the booth, and that's where I had the binders of patterns and then lots of samples set up. And I think that looked, I think it could have looked nicer. I think it looked a little messy, a little unorganized. And I think that I could do better with that, especially since that's in the back of the booth, and then as people are walking by, that's kind of what they're seeing. I think I can do some things to just make that display look more enticing. So as far as booth setup, that's some thoughts that I had there. During the event itself, I had additional help. booth helpers that came in and worked 3-hour shifts. And again, especially the times that it started to get busy and I was, there were a line of people that was checking out and there were other people that had questions. Again, I could not have done all of that without you guys. So Erin and Laura and Jessica and Shama, thank you so much for your help. And again, Lindsay and Alyssa coming in whenever the other people were not there. Again, thank you guys. Sophia. I'm sorry. Sophia too. So I knew there was somebody that I forgot. So thank you guys so very much for coming into my booth and working a shift and helping out there. Really, really appreciate that. So there were times that were busy and then there were times that were slow. I mean, it's always working in a booth. It's always that roller coaster. It's kind of a feast or famine type of thing. It seems like everyone's in the booth at once or nobody's in the booth. And I actually had one person come by and she asked, why does it seem like there are some booths that there are just a lot of people in and then other booths that there aren't very many people in? And I told her, it was like, sometimes the fact that other people are in the booth is an attractive thing. So you see, oh, there are other people in this booth. What are they looking at? And you go in and to see what they're looking at. And then other people see, oh, this booth is really busy. I wonder what's in here. And so they come in too. And so it kind of seems like the busier a booth is, the busier a booth gets, because people want to see what's everyone else looking at. Anyway, so it always seems to come in waves, and having the bigger booth especially, it was harder to keep an eye on things. So I really, really appreciated the help from my booth helpers. And it was fantastic to meet people who were coming in. I mean, that's always the best part, to see people that I see, each year I'm at the festival and maybe don't get to see other times in between, and to also meet new people. And I also always love seeing the projects that you guys have finished and brought in. And this time I remembered to take pictures and I posted those on Instagram. So if you did not get to see those, my Instagram feed is Karen Dawn Knits. And you can see some of the really stunning things that you guys brought by the booth to show me. And thank you, those of you who reminded me to take pictures. I really, really appreciated that. As far as my own personal shopping, usually what I do is when I come in the mornings, I pick an aisle and I walk down that aisle as I'm going to my booth and kind of check out what's in that aisle. And then when I'm leaving in the evening, I pick a different aisle and I walk down that one to check that out. And then I kind of make a little list of things that I think that I want to buy. So I don't really have time to really get into a booth and look. It's mostly kind of a quick glance as I'm walking by. And then usually it's Sunday morning where I make a mad dash, because Sunday morning is usually pretty empty in the vendor hall. I make a mad dash over to this booth and buy that thing, and then make a mad dash and then go back to my booth, make sure everything's good, and then make a mad dash out somewhere else and buy something and run back to my booth. So that is what I did, and that is how I bought several things. Actually, one thing that I did not make the mad dash for was this yarn from A Thing for String. So A Thing for String. This is a local dyer, Mickey, and we actually did a trade. So she got some of my yarn and I got some of her yarn. That's something that's really nice, being a vendor, making trades on those types of things. So this yarn is mostly gray, and then if you can see, basically there's a section, I should take off the tag and pull this out. So there's a section in here that has the colors. So if I kind of untwist that a little bit, hopefully you can see. So there's this color, and then it goes into this color, and then it goes into the green there. So mostly it will be gray, and then with those kind of pops of color, 1, 2, 3. Looks like this one has 3 colors every so often. So that's a lot of fun, and she does this type of thing with different colors going along with the gray. So it looked like by the time that I got there, she'd sold out a lot of those. So that was one that she had left that caught my eye. So that was one of my purchases, or trades, I guess. And then my others were, again, before the market started, this vendor was in her booth, so I was able to go ahead and buy it. So this was from Teeny Button Studio, who does a lot of Harry Potter colorways. So I'll show you the back so you can actually see the colors. But this is the Diagon Alley mini skein set. So there are 10 grams each, so about 46 yards. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colorways. So I have no idea yet what I'm going to do with this. So there are the 7 colorways. I will probably come up with some type of main color and pick a pattern that uses some kind of mini skeins in there. So I will supplement this with something else. And it looks like this is a 75% merino, 25% nylon. So that could potentially be very similar to my Merlin base, so maybe I'll dye up something in semi-solid in Merlin and use that with this. Anyway, so had to have that Harry Potter thing, and I thought it was just a lot of fun to play around with some different colors. And then I also, the Knitting Fairy had a booth, and the one of the dyers dyes specifically for the Knitting Fairy, and since I knew that the Knitting Fairy was closing, I wanted to make sure that I got something. This is lovely, and this is a blend of superfine superwash merino and mulberry silk, 75-25. And sometimes I wish you guys could just feel things, but this feels lovely. You just feel it and you think, oh my gosh, that's so lovely. And Elisa was saying that that's kind of what everyone would say about this yarn, and they were trying to come up with a name for it. And they were like, why are we fighting it? Everyone is calling this lovely. Why don't we just call it lovely? And then this is the Fairy Magic color, purple, which is, I obviously love purple, but it's also the Knitting Fairy's color. So I thought this was the perfect color to get for that. Then the other yarn purchase that I made, and I will show you the gradient part in just a minute because it's gorgeous. So Panorama Fiber Arts, Heather is the dyer there. She does a lot of these gradient colors, and Heather is somebody that I like to buy from quite frequently, and I like just to chat with her. Unfortunately, we didn't have very much time to talk this time around. We were quite busy, and I decided this color needed to come home with me. Look at all of that. Hopefully the lighting is not blowing this out too much. So it's got kind of green in the center. You can see the line of green down there. So green in the center going out to blue-green, and then blue, and then to the purple. This is really, really fabulous. This is the Cirque color, and this is 600 yards. I wanted to get a bigger cake, so that way I could have more options for what I want to do with it. It's going to be a shawl, probably a shawl from Anna Victoria, designer who does really, really gorgeous shawls. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I got this. And Panorama Fiber Arts, she is doing custom gradients. So if you want to do a specific length of yardage, that you can go ahead and do a special order and get exactly the yardage that you need for your project. So that's something that's really cool that she is offering. I just decided I wanted to take it home with me, so I picked one up off the shelf. Then I went to Erin Lane Bags, and I got she came out with some new sheeple. So I already have some Doctor Who and Star Wars and Harry Potter sheeple bags. And this one is an Outlander sheeple bag. So I'll show you technically the bag's upside down, but the sheeple are kind of facing every different direction. So there's the sheeple in various Outlander costumes. Down here on the bottom is Claire the red dress. And then this is one of the viewfinder bags. Yeah, this one actually is the viewfinder because it's a smaller one. So you can see into the bag, and then you can see the fabric on the inside basically is the outlines of the sheep. And so, yeah, I definitely had to have this. I ran over to Lindsay, even though it's Erin Lane Bags. Lindsay is the one who owns it. And I said, I am throwing money at you, and bought the bag. So happy to add that to my collection. And then I had to go over to Diana Couture, because she's been posting about this on Instagram, and I knew like this was the one thing that was for sure on my to buy list. So she's been mentioning these, and this is see-through, so it's probably not going to come across very well here on the podcast. But this is a handy gauge ruler from Ann Budd. And so basically the idea is that you hold it up to your knitting until your stitches match the size of the stitches on the ruler, and that is how you figure out your gauge. No more having to say, okay, what's an inch, what's 4 inches, okay, how many stitches are in there? Nope, you just make your V's match up whichever size of V's are here on the ruler, and it tells you right below, this one is 8 stitches to an inch, and you've got your gauge. I haven't tried it out yet. But I'm really eager to do so. And that is something that I definitely wanted. And then Diana came out with these holders for these. So that way, because I think, especially with this being see-through, it'd probably be pretty easy to put it somewhere and to not be able to find it. So she has these really neat holders that you can get for these rulers. And so some of them have different sayings on them. So this one says, swatch me knit the right size. So a little gauge thing. So it's got a Velcro closure right there. And then she had, because you could get it with or without the ruler, she has this in there to hold it. So there is her logo for Diana Couture. But basically, you just put the ruler in there and store it. So it's much easier to find. Plus, it's just super cute with a little swatch me knit the right size saying on there. And like I said, she's got a couple of other sayings in other colors as well of these little handy holders. So that is what I bought. So I also kind of did what I'm stashing here in this section. And really the experience, like I said, it was really wonderful. It's a really fantastic festival, especially knowing that the people who organize it are all volunteers. So I think it is one of the largest volunteer-run fiber festivals in the United States, definitely in Texas. But it is a really, really amazing experience. I'm so glad that I'm able to be a vendor there. But I'm also glad it's over because preparing for it definitely takes up a lot of time. So I've got other events coming up, so I'll be getting into that cycle again of preparing. But it's definitely a worthwhile experience. But so exhausted afterwards. The only regret that I have being a vendor is that I don't have much time to shop. Although I feel like I made some good damage. I don't always have time to really shop and explore. Except for the Teeny Button Studio. I think this is the only new to me shop that I bought from. So I didn't get to explore some of the newer shops very much. I didn't really have time to talk to people. There were people I wanted to talk to that we just never got around to talking at all. And I don't ever get to take any classes. There were some classes I would have really loved to take, especially Leslie Ann Robinson's class on brioche. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but being a vendor is a lot of fun, getting to see people's excitement about the yarn and seeing what you guys have made. So I really like that. By the way, in the background, if you're hearing that noise, Eva has managed to take off her collar and she is playing with it. So, she's having fun. I guess technically it's not yarn, so that is good. But she is making quite a bit of noise. Anyway, so I'm sure there are other things to talk about with DFW Fiber Fest. And I thought that I would do videos. I thought that I would maybe do some interviews and actually have like a special DFW Fiber Fest podcast episode. That did not happen. I never have as much time as I think I'm going to have at the event, and unfortunately that didn't happen. I did take a couple of videos, but I think by a couple I think I mean 2. And when I look and see how long this episode is at the end, maybe I'll include those. But otherwise, it kind of seems, since I didn't get all the stuff that I wanted, it seems kind of weird to have videos of like 2 booths and nothing else. So we'll see. I may include those, I may not. And if you do want to see them, maybe I will put them up as separate things. Maybe I could do that. I don't know. I will figure it out. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I do have a couple of more things to talk about, so we'll move to the next section. I have a finished project. So this is the Spiral Eyelet Cowl, and the yarn I'm pretty sure I told you guys about last time. This is from Windrush Alpacas, which is an alpaca farm in New Mexico, close to where a friend of mine lives, a friend who also watches the podcast. And she gave me this yarn as a present, and so I wanted to use it for something that was extra special, and but also something that was kind of simple to let the yarn kind of be the star of it. So this is a blend of alpaca and bamboo, which I knew would be really, really drapey. If I take this off, maybe I haven't blocked it yet, so that's why this bottom part is curling up a little bit. But just kind of look and see how that drape on that, where it just falls, which for a cowl is perfect. Did not want a lot of structure for a project, so really, really easy pattern that I think allows the yarn to shine. So I did finish this off last night, or maybe the night before I finished the bind off. I was pretty close, kind of before Fiberfest, and then I kind of made this be my focus project after Fiberfest and finished it. So really excited to have this FO. So what I'm knitting, even though it's been 3 weeks because of DFW Fiberfest, I have not had time to do a lot of knitting, but I do have a little bit of progress. So the first thing is a half finished object. So socks, the yarn is from Brazen Stitchery, and this is the Molly or the Hermione? I'm pretty sure this is the Molly colorway. I have both Molly and Hermione. Pretty sure this is Molly, so Harry Potter inspired. So Brazen Stitchery. So I finished that off. I had gotten down to the toe right before Fiberfest, so right after Fiberfest I finished doing that. I did break one of my sock rules. Usually I never finish a sock unless I have time to immediately cast on the second sock. That is what helps me avoid second sock syndrome. I have not cast on the second sock, mostly because I finished this. I did the bind off for the cowl, and then I did this. And even though I still had about 30 minutes or so before I was going to bed, I was just tired, and I really did not feel like starting a sock. So I am going to make sure that I start the second sock very soon, so that way I won't have that linger too much as just one sock. So what I did is I picked up my boxy, because that is just right now straight stockinette knitting in the round, round and round. So that was this has been my mindless knit. I've gotten a little bit more progress done on that. I keep thinking that I should measure in inches how far I am each time I record an episode, and then I'll remember actually how much I've knit between episodes. So I'm getting there. Still have quite a bit to go on the body. I am coming toward the end, although I still have a pretty decent amount here, but toward the end of the first skein of yarn. So I have not wound the next skein into a cake, so I should probably do that next. I just had an article on my newsletter about using hand-dyed yarn on bigger projects and alternating skeins. I will say I'm being really bad with this project, and I'm not alternating skeins. That might be something that I regret. We will find out. But right now, I'm not alternating. Do as I say, not as I do. it really is best practice to alternate, but yeah. And then the other thing is I got 4 rows on my Let Go cardigan. So it's actually upside down. So cardigan still needs sleeves, so looks like a vest right now. But there we are. So the front is adding some increases, so that way the front panel basically gets wider and wider, so there's a little bit of drape to it. So it's getting there. I think I have 2 more increases. I think there are 6 rows between each increase, and I think I have 2. I think I'm about to do an increase, and then I have 2 more increases after that. So 12 more rows on the increase, and then however long you're supposed to go after you finish the increases, which it's been a while since I've looked at the pattern, so I don't remember. But I think I'm getting close to the body being finished, and then we'll get to work on the sleeves. I say close. It takes quite a while to do each row, so it's still going to be quite a bit of knitting time put into it, but I feel like as long as I don't put it aside for too long, that I should be able to have it ready for this fall. That's my goal, that I want to have it wearable by the time the weather turns cold again. Although the spring we've been having, I know in many parts of the country, you guys are still seeing snow even this late in the year, and we are having roller coaster temperatures this weekend. Past weekend at Fiberfest, especially Saturday, was really cold, which is kind of nice because then, you had an excuse to wear all of your hand knit and crocheted items. Yeah, weather's just been crazy. Anyway, so I want to have that done by fall. That is my goal. That is what I'm knitting right now. There are projects that I really want to cast on. I want to do one of those sock arm sweaters. So the body of the sweater is in a semi-solid or tonal color, and then the sleeves are done with self-striping yarn, so you can still get the effect of the self-striping. And so when I saw that pattern come out, which hasn't been out that long, it was like, oh, I've got to make one of those one day. So I think I actually have a plan for the yarn that I want to use. I have a self-striping colorway called Pavilion that is a charcoal gray, blue, purple, and green. Although I think the order is gray, purple, blue, green, because the purple and the green are not next to each other. Anyway, so that is the colorway that I think I want to use on the sleeves, with the body done in the charcoal gray in my Legend base, which is a merino yak nylon blend. So that's my plan for that sweater, which would be my third garment. If I finish these, the Let Go cardigan, the boxy, and then the sock arm sweater. My goal is to do 3 garments this year, 3 sweaters or cardigans. And so if I add in the sock arms and finish them all, then that would be my 3. Although there are others that I also want to make, so maybe there would be more than 3. But those, I think, are the ones I'm going to focus on. And then I also need to pick a shawl for this quarter's knit along. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to do. I have not yet looked at the pattern, so I do the actual pattern, just the pattern page on Ravelry. So I want to go ahead and buy the pattern and take a look at it and make sure that it is what I want to do. And I am pretty sure that I'm going to use that new gradient that I just got from Panorama as the yarn for that project. But since I'm not 100% sure, I will post about it in the discussion on the Knit Along chat thread in the podcast group on Ravelry, and kind of make my final decision and start that. But yeah, I'm feeling eager to start other projects, and I will probably start a smaller project because all of those are going to be big projects. So I think I also need to find a smaller project to start. And one of my goals this year was to knit more with my hand spun yarn, and so I don't currently have a hand spun yarn project on the needles. So I probably should do something about that too. So I'm hoping in 2 weeks when I record again that I will have several more items in the What I'm Knitting section. Hopefully I don't go too crazy and cast on a gazillion things, but I mean, that's up to potentially 4 new things that I start, which probably is plenty. especially with the other projects that I still have on the needles. But yeah, I think it's the after Fiber Fest kind of rush of wanting to cast on all the things. So I had more that I wanted to say with the what I'm dyeing, so kind of what's going on with Roundtable Yarns. But I think maybe I will save that for a future episode, because I know this one is already kind of running a bit long. So I will just say that right now the dye pots have kind of gone quiet. I usually give myself a little bit of a break after a festival, but I'm already kind of feeling eager to get them going again. Right now I don't have a lot of undyed yarn available. I just placed an order. I looked at what I want to do for Houston Fiber Fest, so I placed an order for that, and I should be getting that yarn on Monday. And I'll probably go ahead and start dyeing for Houston Fiber Fest so I don't run into kind of crunch time with that, because right now June seems like it's far away, but it's really not. So I'm going to work on that. I've got a few custom orders that I will also be working on. And then I need to start thinking about the next yarn club. I'm narrowed down now to 2 stories that I want to do for the club. I think they will both be stories that I do for yarn clubs, because I think they're both really great stories. But I'm not sure which one I want to do next, like which one is going to be the next club. So I just need to make that decision and then sit down with that story and start thinking about how to break it up into different parts, how many parts it's going to be broken up into, and then start thinking about color inspirations. I also kind of have thoughts about making a club that's kind of a knit-along club, that a pattern would go with it. And it would be kind of like a mystery knit-along, and I am, in this sense, saying knit-along as in an actual knit, because it would be a pattern that I design. Anyway, so I was thinking about doing kind of a mystery knit-along where it's also the yarn club, so you're getting yarn each time, and then you're getting the next clue for the pattern as part of the club, so that way over the course of 3 or 4, however many months it gets broken down into, you're kind of doing that. So I've kind of got that idea kind of running around in the back of my head too. So that might be something that I work on as well. And so kind of thinking ahead to Houston Fiber Fest, because I don't want to let June sneak up on me. And then getting some yarn club stuff going. For self-striping, I have one colorway that I do have the first batch dyed. I just need to reskein it, get my little mini skein that I dyed out of that, and do a sample. And then I will be able to release that color. So I'm not sure exactly timeline-wise when that will happen, but probably in the next week or 2, a new self-striping color will come out. And then it's back to my notebook to see my other self-striping ideas and dye some of those. So that way I can keep on track of releasing at least 12 colorways of self-striping this year. I've done 5. The one that's already dyed and waiting will be 6. And then I need at least 6 more, which I already have planned out to get to my minimum goal for the year. So I feel like I'm doing pretty well with that goal. And otherwise, I still have thoughts about, studio space, thoughts on just, where Roundtable Yarns is going in the future and all of those types of things. But I think this is, there have been a lot of kind of some heavy ideas, especially with the whole yarn shop closing section. So I think that I will table this idea and talk about it on a future episode. So basically, I've taken a little bit of a break, but now I am ready to jump back in, get the dye pots heated up again, and get going on dyeing more yarn. So even though the first quarter knit along, crochet along has ended, there were a few FO posts that I have not yet shown you guys here on the podcast. I'm pretty sure this is where I have it here is the point where I need to start sharing them. So I wanted to do that. So we have Kat C has a couple of more FOs in the thread. So this was all the first quarter knit along. So this pretty orangey Shawl is Slipway by Meg Gadsby. That was a test knit, and then the pattern has been released. And then this other one is another test knit. Again, the pattern has been released. It is Landfall by Lindsay Luchuk, and it's really pretty pink. So you can see the shape of it there. So that one is really pretty. So Cat C had, and even further back, I've shown you guys other FOs for this quarter. I know there were several of you who actually had multiple FOs. I think Cat C was the one who had the most, but don't quote me on that because I didn't actually add up and count things. Ash Salt finished Martha's Meadow in these really pretty purples and green, like the color combination there. So that looks really nice. And then Care Bear finished the Tracy Shawl by Joji Locatelli. So there is a picture of that one. And Cat C is back. Like I said, quite a few shawls. So this one, she didn't put looks like both of these she didn't list the design name. So I'm sure they're in the thread, and I didn't look them up. But this one here at the top, that's really pretty. I like the two colors and how they work together. And this one was a test knit, but not a secret one. The pattern says should be released in April. So hopefully this month, this pattern will be released. So that is also very pretty. And then Elsie 99 did a few projects here at the end. So this one is a boomerang. And these were all blocking pictures. So I think there are ones that are post blocking. This is Rondelay. This is a really cool shape. I don't know how well you can see that on here. Make sure you go look at this project. Just a really neat shape in the way that it works with the yarn and the yarn colors. So that's a lot of fun. And then last one, also LC99. This is the Stegosaurus. So Stegosaurus by Carissa Browning, who is a local to Dallas designer. And Laura, the one who knit this, it was one of my booth helpers. And she actually she was wearing it the day that she was working in my booth, and that was the day that Carissa came by. And so Carissa got to see the shawl in person, and I got to see the blocked version. And it's so fun. And this is a really neat, the Stegosaurus, the idea that you've got the little, I guess the spiny plates on the Stegosaurus, and so you've got that on the shawl. So that was a lot of fun to get to see the designer get to see the finished object. And I think it was that first post that Elsie made, 24. That was the one that was the winner of the first quarter's knit along. And so Laura is the one who got the cute shawl pin. So thank you guys. That was I think 20 something projects that you guys completed in the first quarter. I think that was our largest number of projects completed. So really awesome, and some gorgeous things in there. So we are into our second quarter for the knit along, and the second quarter's theme is basically a shawl that, make sure I get the exact wording. A shawl, not on the first page, inspired by science or math. For example, named for scientists, for scientific discoveries or theories, with construction based on mathematical principles, etc. So this is a pretty wide one. I don't want to be the knit along police and say, theme police and say, yes, no, this is definitely not. If you feel that your pattern fits into that science or math inspired, then I think we should be fine. So we've already got several started projects that are in here, and I think that that some of them, like geology, I think that's the one that several people are going to be working on. There's another one called, what was the name of it? The Celestarium, I think that's it. That basically is like of the night sky, so it's a big pie circular shawl. So there's that one, and then there's the companion piece to it, which I think is called Southern Skies. I don't know why I'm not finding that in the thread right now. Southern Skies. There we go. Celestarium and Southern Skies. So they are big circular shaped shawls that have beads that mimic the constellations of the night sky, depending upon where you're looking. And Eva's standing right by my tripod, so hopefully she doesn't knock it over. And so I think those are brilliant patterns, and Craft Mouse is planning on doing Southern Skies. I can't wait to see that. So I think there's some really exciting things coming along this quarter, and if you have not yet joined us, the quarter just started, so I hope you will join in this knit along or crochet along. And it runs through the whole second quarter, so that's this month, May and June, so you've got until the end of June. I have not yet picked a prize for this quarter's knit along, but I definitely want to go with the science or math based theme. I have a couple of ideas, I just haven't picked out a specific prize yet. So I will do that soon and let you guys know what the prize will be. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with this quarter. So thank you very much for watching this episode. If you are a returning viewer, I really appreciate that you come back and want to spend more time listening to me talk. If you are a new viewer, I hope that you will come back because of the post Fiber Fest, and also talking about the yarn shop closing. This is a slightly different structure than I normally have. Usually I talk about a specific t-shirt and a specific shawl, and then go into the other segments, but hopefully I will get back to that next time, and I hope you will come back and check it out. If you would like to participate in the podcast community, over on Ravelry is where we do all of our discussion in the knit-alongs. However, if you want to let YouTube know that you like this video, this podcast, and you want other people to be able to have it recommended, maybe also posting a comment here on YouTube would be helpful to do that. But really the conversation takes place over on Ravelry in the podcast group. So just, if you're not a member yet, just search t-shirts and shawls or click the link in the show notes, and that will take you to the discussion for this episode. I should be back on schedule now. I'm not going to, to stick to the dates of my old schedule. I'm just going to say this was a release, a podcast episode release, so I'm going to have another one in 2 weeks, as usual, the every other week type of thing. So until next time, hope you will join us in the knit along or the discussion on Ravelry, and happy knitting!